I'm talking people going to jail and people living in work hell. We gonna get into it. Let's get it. Welcome. First of all, welcome. This is Unsolicited Perspectives. I'm your host, Bruce Anthony, here to lead the conversation in important events and topics that are shaping today's society. Join the conversation and follow us wherever you get your audio podcasts. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for our video podcast, YouTube exclusive content, and our YouTube membership. Rate, review, like, comment, share. Share with your friends, share with your family, hell, even share with your enemies. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the Diddy sentencing, a judge that's wilding out, and a situation where a woman is having a problem with her manager. But that's enough of the intro. Let's get to the show. You know, I had a whole different first segment planned. I was going to talk about the lead singer from Fairmore calling out Mason Wiley or Wiley Mason, whoever that country singer is, saying that he's racist because, you know, he had an incident back in 2021 when he said the N-word. And then he did a song with Moneybagg Yo, and I was really conflicted about it. And I was going to talk about it in the first segment, and I may talk about it somewhere down the line in another segment. But just as I was about to hop on here and record this show, Diddy was sentenced. So Sean Diddy Combs was sentenced on October the 3rd, 2025 to 50 months in federal prison, along with $500,000 fine and 5 years of supervised release following the conviction of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. He will receive credit for approximately 12 months already served in custody since his arrest was in September 2024, meaning he faces about 3 more years of incarceration. Now, a friend of mine, I haven't been paying attention, right? Like me and my sister have talked about it on the podcast when it first came out and the Diddy trial and all that stuff. It's not something that we were going to really follow because I didn't really find it interesting. I mean, it is interesting. I don't find it that interesting. I don't care. I don't care if Diddy goes to jail or not. There are bigger issues in the world. Not to say that what he did isn't heinous, but that's not occupying my mind. I'm more occupied by what's going on currently. We're in a government shutdown. Like, that's important to me, right? So Diddy's trial, the celebrity of it, not really important to me. I did say that I thought it was a huge reach for them to do a RICO trial because I was just like, typically when you do a RICO trial, you have other co-defendants. It was just him, which let me know one or two things. Either the case, the prosecution's case was so strong that all his co-conspirators had turned on him and were going to testify, or it was a reach. And sure enough, the little bit of the case that I did follow, it was a reach. So he was convicted on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Those are legitimate. Those were things that were proven during the case and the evidence. Now, they were looking at it being anywhere from 10 to 20 years per count. And the prosecution had recommended something, I think it was like 87 months, something like that. And a friend texted me because I didn't know that this was happening today. Like I said, I haven't been following it. It's not in my wheelhouse. I'm messy, but not that type of messy. Like, I just don't care. And a friend of mine texted me and was like, what do you think he's going to get? I think he's going to get 11 years. And I said, okay, well, let me look at the charges. That they're like 10 to 20 years, 2 counts. I said, they'll give him 15 years to be served concurrently. It's a federal charge, so he'll serve, I don't know, 12 to 13 years and with time served, and he'll be out in 12 years, right? Like, that's what I was thinking. Then another one of my friends texted, he got 3 years. And I was like, wait a minute, he only got 3 years? No, he got 4 years or 50 months, right? Which is, if you do math, ladies and gentlemen, 50 months is 4 years and 2 months, because 12 divided by 50 48, right? So 12 plus 12 is 24. That's 2 years. 24 plus 24, that's 48. That's 4 years. You got 2 months left over, 4 years and 2 months. And he'd already served 12. So I was like, I don't know what the federal guidelines are. It was like, well, you got to serve up to 15%. You can get all 15%. So you serve 85% of your sentencing in federal penitentiary. And I don't know if that's correct, but let's just say the math is true, right? So I said, oh, okay. So these guys serve 15%. If he gets 15% off, so he's got to serve 85. Let's take the 15% off. So you take the 50 math, ladies and gentlemen, because I did this to my friend. My friend couldn't figure it out. And I was like, just do the math equation. It's 50 minus 7.5, because 7.5 is 15% of 50. And then divide that into 12. It's like 3.5 years. And with time served, it's like 2.5 years. He's going to be out in a little less than 3 years, which, look, people were saying, based on the evidence and what they could prove, this is about right. And I can't argue with that. Like I said, I didn't follow the case as thoroughly as like the O.J. Simpson case, because that took the world by storm. I was 16 years old, not even 16 years old. I think I was 14 or 15 years old, took the world by storm. I remember we were in one of my classes in high school, and the court case was literally on the TV as we were doing class. I don't remember which class it was, but it was there. Like, that took the world by storm, and I was following it. I was not following Diddy's case, but when I did do the reporting, and we did talk about it on the show, and I was reading the indictment, mind you guys, I'm not a lawyer. I do have somewhat of a legal background only because of what I do for a living. What that basically means is that I can read legal documents and decipher them and understand them. If you do that a lot for work, you start to understand how legal phrases are written, how documents are written, and you can understand them. Not everybody can, because legal documents are written really complicated for you not to really be able to understand it unless you are a lawyer. But you can kind of, after a certain period of time, understand legal documents. So I'm reading the indictment, and I'm like, I don't know how they're going to prove all this. Some of this stuff is easy to prove, some of this stuff isn't. One of my friends brought up, what about the drugs and the guns? And I was like, I don't know where they got the guns, right? If they got the guns in Florida, they could have been legal. The drugs, I don't know. Maybe they tied that up in the RICO case. I don't know. Maybe they are saving it to try and fry him another way down the road, because they knew that this was propped up on like some charges that were going to be tough to prove. Regardless, he's going to get out soon. And how do I feel about that? I think personally, he's a despicable person. But before this case was brought up, I thought that, right? Like, the video of Cassie being beaten in the hotel, that shocked me. That did shock me. But it's not like he hasn't had incidents before. He's had run-ins before. He's had run-ins where he's been in court cases before. Remember him and J-Lo going to court all the time? Like, he's had these type of situations. And I follow hip hop music, and I know that he's done some shady business deals. He's done some underhanded tactics. I don't think he's necessarily that great of a person, personally. I watched Making of the Band. That's not a portrayal. Like, when these celebrities do these shows where they're like the boss and they're giving you a behind the scenes look at how they run their operations, like Making the Band or The Apprentice, these people are showing you who they are. It's not for show. Their personalities are entertaining. The way they act in their personal life is outlandish. So it'll draw in the viewer, but they are absolutely showing you who the hell they are. Diddy showed us who he was on Making the Band. Donald Trump showed us who he was on The Apprentice. Like, these things aren't new. They're only new if you're blinded to it and don't want to see it. Just a detour. I'm watching a great show called Peacemaker on HBO Max. written and mostly directed by James Gunn, part of the DC cinematic universe that he just unleashed with Superman and Peacemaker. This was in the second season. John Cena is doing a great job acting. And in this television show, Peacemaker was raised by basically a Nazi sympathizer, right? Like an absolute racist. And he goes into a different dimension, a different world where he sees his doppelganger, and he kills his doppelganger by accident and takes his place. And he's living in this fairy tale world. And he was like, here, my dad loves me, and here, my brother is still alive. Like, this world is great. Completely blinded to the fact that, spoiler alert, completely blinded to the fact that there are no people of color anywhere around. Nowhere, anywhere around. Why am I bringing this up? Because when you're feeling good and being entertained by music or television or what have you, you could be blinded by the person that's presenting it to you. You could be blinded. You could be walking around with blinders on. I say it all the time. I'm a hypocrite in the standpoint that I will not watch those Michael Jackson documentaries because I'm such a huge Michael Jackson fan. I got around being able to listen to R. Kelly music because I found out that any money that he makes on his music now goes towards the victims. Right? Like, I got around that. And I think Bad Boy is also something similar. Any music that he makes might end up having to go to the victims, or any money that he makes on the music, his previous music might end up going to the victims. So that gives you kind of a loophole to be able to still enjoy that artwork. And I'm going to be real honest. I'm always on YouTube and clips of the Cosby Show just be popping up. And I'm like, man, damn, this was a really, really good and funny show. I kind of don't want to give it up despite the hideous and horrible things that he's done. All of us do it. I'm not going to stand on my pulpit and preach to you guys and say that I don't do the same shit, because I do. I'm keenly aware of it and I try to correct it. And I think that might be the difference. Some people walk around with blinders on. They don't even know they're walking around with blinders on, or they don't want to admit that they have blinders on and they want to make excuses. But Diddy showed us who he was. So he got convicted. He got sentenced. Of course, his people are going to appeal the case, and he might get out sooner. Who knows? Right now, he's still in jail for another 2.5 to almost 3 years. When he comes out, I don't know what's going to happen. He'll probably do speaking engagements. He'll ask for forgiveness. He'll say his life has changed around. He'll probably come up with some projects that people will support, because America specifically loves a comeback story, no matter who you are, except for OJ. But OJ didn't really even try to come back. OJ doubled down on it and wrote a book, If I Would Have Killed Her. That's not the exact title, but it was something like that. So how do I feel about this? I mean, honestly, I don't care. I think the sentence is light only in the fact that we know some of his crimes were absolutely heinous, but it's also what the prosecution can prove. The sentencing seems about right based on what the prosecution presented, and the defense did a good job with cross-examining. And that's what money can do. That's what money and privilege can do. We talk about white privilege a lot, but there's money privilege. If you got money, no matter what color you are, 9 times out of 10, you can get yourself out of some stuff. 9 times out of 10. Harvey Weinsteins weren't able to get out. Jeffrey Epstein's weren't able to get out. Cosby did end up going to jail, but somehow got out. Sometimes money doesn't always save you, but there is money privilege, right, that puts you in a different category. If Diddy was poor, his ass would be serving 25 to 30 years of life. Because he got a little bit of bread, he was able to pay a defense team to get him 3 years, 4 years, And so it doesn't surprise me. It's America. Don't know if it's right. Don't know if it's wrong. I know it's the world that we live in. And all I can say is, I hope this experience has changed Diddy, has grown, it's got to be sobering going to prison. I would assume. I know for me it would be. First of all, we've already established I wouldn't make it in prison. But if I did have to go to prison and I was able to make it out and come out, whatever I went into prison for, if I was guilty, because I might be framed and sent to prison and I'm innocent. But if I was guilty, I would think I would come out humbled, happy to be out, never wanting to go back, enjoying the simple pleasures. Like, you don't know what you have until it's taken away from you. You ever not had a runny nose? You don't remember those often, but you remember every time you got a runny nose or sore throat. Like when you get a sore throat, you're like, damn, I remember the time where I didn't have a sore throat. Those were good times, right? And so we need to appreciate when we're in good situations, recognize them more, take, I don't know, a breath and enjoy that good situation, because a bad situation could be right around the corner. And maybe Diddy will grow from this and I don't know, mature as a person, mature as a man, and we won't see him in these type of situations again. Or he can go back to the way he was, knowing that he got off light. Who knows? Who knows? This is what I do know. I do know is I genuinely don't care. Like I don't care. There are bigger issues, but this is an interesting situation. And I knew that some of you out there that listen and follow both me and my sister would want to hear our perspectives on this. And my perspective was, I understand the time that he got based on the evidence that was presented by the prosecution. That seems fitting based on the evidence that was presented by the prosecution. Based on his actual crimes, it is not fitting, but based on the evidence of the prosecution, this is what you get. And my hope is that he changes and does more for society in the future. Speaking of money and power and jail, something interesting came across my feed and I was like, ooh, now this is interesting to me. This is something that I actually care about. And the reason why I actually care about it is because more or less Diddy isn't in a position to really affect other people's lives. He can by his actions, right? He can by hiring and firing, but not on a mass scale. Now, judge, on the other hand, a judge is in a position of power that affects numerous people. Being a judge is a very, very, very important job to have. You need morally uncorruptible people to hold those positions. Now, can a person absolutely be morally incorruptible? I don't know. That's pretty tough. We all have our flaws. But what we can't have are judges like this. So bringing back a segment that I said, maybe it'll come back, maybe it won't, because I'll be forgetting about these segments. Bringing back a segment that you guys might remember. Say what now? That's right. This is a say what now moment. So what am I talking about? Judge James B. Goosenell Jr., a Charleston County magistrate, has recently faced serial federal charges and has a long-standing controversy over racial comments and questionable conduct in his judiciary career. Now, if I just give you the racist comments and taking the questionable conduct during his judiciary career, you're like, Bruce, how does that mean that he's going to jail just because he makes racist comments? No. That's not the reason why his ass is on his way to jail. This is the reason why his ass is on the way to jail. In September 2025, Goosenell was charged with the possession of illegal and highly disturbing content involving minors. Allegations include attempts to acquire and discuss extremely inappropriate material with claims that some of it referenced infants as young as 2 months old. Federal prosecutors assessed that Goosenell engaged in online conversations with others who shared similar harmful interests, and digital evidence was reportedly uncovered during the investigation. He is currently suspended from his position, being held in protective custody, and remained under active federal investigation. Now, I am choosing my words carefully because I'm not trying to flag YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all that stuff. But he's when I say that he was getting files and talking about minors, you know exactly what I'm leading to. If I say the word, it gets flagged. But you know the word I'm talking about. It starts with a P and ends in an aisle. Okay. So that's what he was for as young as 2 months, and not just like pictures. In the actual court case, in the actual like investigation, he's talking about causing these minors harm, sexual and physical harm, like some real sadistic type of stuff. Like, when you talk about like serial killers and like I was getting ready to say B2K, the BKS, the SBK, the BSK, that person, the dude that dressed up in the clown. Look, I'm so flabbergasted by the fact that it was as young as 2 months old. Y'all heard me correctly. 2 months. Been on earth breathing for 2 months. That's what he's going after. Not just for sexual, but to physically harm, and joining in communities to talk about this and spreading files together, passing along files. He done found his little crew. This is a judge in Charleston County, but Charleston, South Carolina, where my grandfather was from. Nobody's talking about this. Nobody's talking about this. As I bring this up and as this goes out into the algorithm, the comments that I'll receive from talking about some type of crime happening in South Carolina. Somebody will bring up, what about the Ukrainian girl? One does not exclude the other. I don't understand. I don't understand how one excludes the other. One doesn't exclude the other. What happened to that Ukrainian woman on that bus train was horrible. Why do we need to compare trauma? I'm just telling you about a story about somebody that is a judge, somebody that holds a position of power that affects other people's lives. Every day, he is making decisions that affects other people's lives, doing something heinous, or whether or not he's actually done it, interested in seeing something heinous being done to minors. This isn't a crazy concept. If just that, just focus in on that alone. We don't have to bring in anything else that's going on in South Carolina. Because I also talked about the South Carolina man that was sitting at the bus stop, just waiting to go to work. And a white man pulls up next to him, pulls out his rifle, shoots up a bullet right above his head, and said, "You need to get out of here, boy." First of all, things is wild in South Carolina. In a particular area, I just don't know why the president doesn't seem like he needs to send a National Guard there to get a handle on things. Anyway, as I move off, let me bring myself back to the topic. I'm talking about a person that has major influence over other people's lives. And they're doing this. And this isn't a young man. This is an old man. This is somebody in his 60s, maybe even his 70s. This is an older man. These things don't just happen. This doesn't just happen, overnight, or at least I don't know, because I don't partake in any of these type of things. I would assume, and I think it would be a logical assumption, that these type of things don't just develop overnight. These are things that have been simmering for a while. And who's to say that during the course of this investigation that they're not going to find information or people aren't going to come forward that he did this to me? Because once again, this was a person that held a powerful position. So as we talk about Diddy, him holding a powerful position and people feeling helpless under him, he's just a music producer or owner of a record company. This is a judge. You see why this would interest me more than Diddy? Because don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that what Diddy did wasn't heinous. It absolutely was. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be punished for it. I feel like he should have been punished more, but that's on the prosecution. What I'm saying is that doesn't pique my, what's the right word? Not just interest. Turn the wheels in my mind like this does. Because there's a clear line of, yeah, Diddy is an entertainer, a business person. He holds some type of importance, but he's a celebrity. And here is a judge. There's levels to this, right? There's levels to this, and this judge is at a higher level than Diddy. I'm not talking about personally. I'm talking about how they can affect other people's lives. Minors, as young as 2 months old. He's a judge. And once again, as I said in the first segment, people show you who they are. People show you who they are. Now, with saying that, can people change? Absolutely. I'm a prime example of it. I was a selfish, self-centered asshole for the first, 30 years of my life. First 30 years of my life. I've said it on the show a lot. I haven't told her in person because we don't be talking like that. I credit my ex-wife with a lot of help in helping me mature. A lot of pointing things out, my struggles with anxiety, struggle with depression, how I would lash out because I wouldn't know how to express myself. I credit her a lot with really helping me mature as a person. And then me personally, I got to give myself a pat on the back from taking that, knowing I needed more growth and going to get help to grow and evolve. So people can obviously change. I'm a prime example of it. But once again, I ain't never done no shit as horrible as any of these people did. So the baseline is a little bit different to be judging on. But people can change, right? But people typically show you who you are, show you who they are. They do. So how did this judge show people who he was? Like I said at the top, he has a history of past racist comments. What type of past racist comments? His career has been long mired by a disciplinary episode going all the way back to 2003 when he told a black defendant, there are 4 kinds of people in this world. These were his words: black people, white people, redneck, and the N-words. Now, I said the N-words. He said the actual N-word with an ER at the end, an ERS. Okay, he said the actual N-word and added in the hard R. Okay, and he said this during a court proceeding. This led to a public reprimand by the South Carolina Supreme Court in 2005, which concluded his poorly thought out comment, which was just out of line. So he says this in a court proceeding. This is not that long ago. It's 20 years ago, right? I'm out of college at this point. I'm living an adult life. And the Supreme Court, the South Carolina Supreme Court reprimanded him. Didn't think about removing him from his seat, right? Because you can actually remove judges from their seats. Didn't think about it, and they just labeled it as a poorly thought out comment. Woo! But that's not it though, because there was some other stuff on his record. His disciplinary record also included facilitating the early release of another judge arrested for a DUI, another breach for judicial ethics, His conduct has prompted criticism over impropriety, racial bias, and an application of judicial power, especially in high-profile cases. So this man has a history, at least going all the way back to 2003, of racial comments, just using his judicial power to help out people close to him, whether he's getting a fellow judge out of early release for a DUI, or just helping another one because of breach of judicial ethics, right? Which you're not supposed to do. And then he's still being given high profile cases. High profile cases, you ask? Y'all remember Dylan Roof? Dylan Roof was that young white man that went into that black church in South Carolina. Those black church parishioners welcomed this young man with open arms to come and praise the Lord. They sat down with him. He participated in prayer and Bible study with these people, and then proceeded to shoot them to death. Y'all remember that story. You also remember the cops taking him to get Burger King before they took him to jail. Gosnell was the judge presiding over this case. And during a bond hearing, Dylan Roof, the perpetrator of Charleston, South Carolina church massacre, he allowed the victims' families to confront Roof directly. A move praised by some, right? But he also drew sharp criticism nationally during the hearing by stating, this was him during the bond hearing for Dylan Roof. So he let the victims make their victim statements, which he was getting some praise for. Then he goes and says this shit. And I know I'm cussing a lot today, but I'm a little agitated because when I heard this story, I was like, say what now? This is what Judge Gosnell said at Dylan Roof's bond hearing. There are victims on the other side also. There are victims on this young man's side of the family. That's what he said. That's what he said. Kind of like there are good people on both sides. We've heard those comments before, right? So, his views, these comments were viewed as insensitive and an attempt for empathy for Ruth's family, which okay, maybe you had some empathy for his family because it's not like they asked him to do it, I guess. I don't know. I don't really know too much about his family. I know if some of my family members do some foul-ish, then I'm going to be like, oh, well, that ain't got nothing to do with me. That was them. Right? Now, why you got to drag me into that bull? That don't got nothing to do with me. But I definitely wouldn't be doing that at a bond hearing where the victims' families were giving statements. And that is not the moment. But this person has routinely shown poor judgment in all of these type of situations. He's a judge, by the way. Did I say that? Let me say it again. He's a judge, by the way, that's presided over a lot of high-profile cases in the state of South Carolina. He's been reprimanded by the Supreme Court of South Carolina, still maintained his job. He's shown racial bias. He's shown judicial bias, right? He's abused his judicial powers. You see why this sparks my interest a little bit more than Diddy's getting 4 years. I did this purposely to show you the difference of how society will present itself. And yes, there are going to be people that are just going to scream out stuff that doesn't make any sense. There are going to be people like, what about Chicago? What about Chicago? There's crime in Chicago. Yeah, there's crime everywhere. There's crime everywhere. Criminals affect people's lives directly, right? And it's a small number, unless it's a mass shooter, then it's a large number. But most of the time, criminals affect who they robbed or who they killed and their extended family. some of their loved ones. This judge, for at least 20 years, has been presiding over cases, all the while been harboring these type of emotions. To let me remind you, the reason why he's under investigation again, it's because he wants to sexually abuse and physically torture minors. That's the reason why this is so important, because he has had a profound effect on a lot of lives for the last 20 years. All the while, this is who he was. And he showed you along the way. This is who he was. Maybe you didn't see that. Maybe you didn't see that from his previous actions. But what he showed you was, it's not a person of high moral character. And they still didn't see fit to remove him from his position. Damn. I hope one day I'd be given grace like that. Actually, no, I don't. I hope, first of all, I would never do something like that. But in an alternative universe, if something like that would ever happen, burn me at the stake immediately. Don't show me no grace. We should show people like this grace. Not when you're trying to harm people as young as 2 months old. 2 months old. All right. I'm off of the jail thing. Let's talk about living in hell. Well, those two men probably going to be living in hell because they're in jail. I should be a rapper. I'm talking about living in hell at work. Now, this person is going to tell you their story. And I want you to think about what they're saying as I tell you my impression of what they're saying. I thought this was interesting because there are two ways to look at it. Well, there's more than two ways to look at it, but there's two ways that I'm going to point out that you can look at this particular story. I'm going to point them out, how you can look at them these two ways, and then tell you what I think. And basically the question is, I think my boss is a bad manager. And so let's hear what this person has to say.
I am a 27-year-old female and I work in a firm at a corporate level. My manager is a mid-50s-year-old female and only has me as an employee. I've been her third employee. She has said multiple times she struggles being a manager and that she doesn't like it. She lacks confidence a lot. She says it herself, and other HR people who worked with her also said it. I work a redaction job, writing articles, corporate emails, and such. When I submit to reviewing, she will change most of what I wrote to what she would have wrote, without my version being incorrect or whatever. She is spending so much time editing my work, which is good, and then complaining to the VP that she has too much to handle. She's also a computer dinosaur and types like a 90-year-old who's never seen a computer, so big time loss there too. Anyways, my job requires me to be at the office at least 3 days a week. The 2 other days I can spend working from home. She would want me to come on set days, but it is sometimes hard for me to follow a strict schedule because my life sometimes gets to crazy without affecting my performance at work at all. Just sometimes I'd go to the office Wednesday instead of Monday. She's big on micromanaging, and I think she knows. I know her tactics. She does a lot of 360s. She'll be cool and loose, and whenever I'd say, oh, BTW, I can't make it to the office on X because of Y, but I'll come on Z to make up for it. And she'd say, okay. I know I also struggle with corporate talking with dots and all, but her tone changes. Anyways, too, I told her this morning I couldn't come to the office because my boyfriend is really sick and had fever all night and we almost went to the emergency room, and that tomorrow he has an appointment at the clinic, so obviously I'll need to drive. So I wasn't comfortable coming to the office. She didn't reply, and I received a Teams email 20 minutes later saying she'd made a 1-hour meeting called Discussions. I know this is her trying to micromanage. I know she would just want me to beg her to being allowed to stay home. I'm not docile, I'm not used to corporate, but I would never have an out-of-line behavior. I think, hopefully, that I'm a good employee who's dedicated. But her behavior is wearing me out, and I'm starting to like my work less and less, which I love what I do. I feel like a lot of context is missing, but that would be too long of a post. That said, am I the idiot?
Okay. Okay. All right. So this is my thoughts. Like I said, there's two ways to approach this, and let me give you a little bit of backstory. I am in the process of helping a friend of mine who just got a promotion to a managing position to try and coach them on how to manage. Now, I've never taken courses on managing. You have those people that do the I call them pimp, but it's PMP courses. They help you with management and things like that. And there are all types of courses to help you be a boss and things of that nature. I have never done any of those things, but I have been a manager for over 25 years in various different entities, whether it's retail, whether it's working in restaurants, whether it's corporate. I've been a manager. I am good at managing people. It's something that just kind of comes naturally to me. It's the reason why I was good at coaching when I started coaching high school basketball players right out of high school, right? Like I was in college, I'm barely able to drink, and I'm coaching high school basketball players. And I had some success. I had a mentor who thought, you are really good at this and can be really good at this. I'm good at teaching. So some of this stuff just kind of comes naturally to me. Not to big up myself, but it some stuff just comes naturally, right? Some people can pick up a baseball or a basketball and just be able to start hooping. Some people can just learn math or just pick up reading. Some people can just, I'm good with people. So I'm helping this person with learning how to manage, and it's patience. Really, it's really patience, and it's tonal, making sure that you are not being intimidating, but that you are being strong. The opposite of what Pete Hegseth did. Like that's fake confidence. You got to have confidence in what you're saying, but also a softness that it can be received. Whether you're giving praise or criticism, like people can receive criticism if there's a softness behind it, not a weakness, a softness, and there's a difference, and it's a fine line. It's a balancing act. So when I first read this, originally I was on her side. I was like, yeah, your boss is micromanaging, and I've been this boss before. Just being like, I'll take care of it, I'll get it done. Just worried that things will get done. I had to learn how to delegate. That's tough for somebody who likes things a certain way to delegate responsibilities because you're like, well, I like it this way. But I learned by doing that, sometimes I've learned to like other ways that are more efficient. And you learn this by having a collective collaboration. The more people throwing ideas, you need somebody to take all those ideas and point you in the direction of whatever company department needs to go in, right? So you need somebody to be able to filter through, pick out the good stuff and go. But you need a bunch of people throwing out different things because, maybe this person has half of a great idea and this person has the other half of a great idea, and combined, they're great. Separately, they're not. Combined, they're great. So originally I was like, your manager is micromanaging you. That's annoying. Then she starts talking about how there are certain rules. Now, they gave her flexibility of some in office and remote work. But if your boss says that's fine, but I would like you in on these days, be in on those days. That's what the boss asked you to do. Be in on those days. If something doesn't work for you, like one week or a next, or you want some time off, that's something that you could talk to your boss about. I was like, hey, I know you normally like me on this time, but is it cool? Don't tell the boss, hey, look, I know you like me on this time, but I'm gonna come on this day and I'll make it up. No, you gotta ask. This is the reason why I want to move this day to this day. And I tell you what's not a good reason to move a work day of coming in or doing remote is to take your damn boyfriend to the clinic. Now, I have been deathly sick before. Nothing was worse than when I got COVID. I literally couldn't move. Crypto was begging me to go out, and it took every fiber of my body to pull myself out of bed. I was in bed all day to pull myself out of bed to go take it for a walk. It was the most physically weak I've ever been in my entire life, and I've had mono and pneumonia at the same time. I've had pneumonia numerous times because of sinus infection would turn into bronchitis, would turn into pneumonia. Numerous times. I had pneumonia and mono at the same time. Couldn't eat anything for an entire month. I could only eat Jello, and I was drinking a lot of Gatorade and water. It would be cool Gatorade, it would go down, it wouldn't hurt my throat. And I would drink, eat Jello because I don't really like all that pudding. And I lost so much weight. That wasn't as bad as COVID. But you know what? No matter how bad it was, I took my ass to the hospital. Like I took myself to the hospital. Okay. And in today's day and age, there is Uber. When I got mono, Uber wasn't a thing. This was 2005. Okay. It wasn't 2004. It wasn't a thing. Okay. Uber is absolutely a thing. That man could go to the clinic by himself. I got to question who he is. Because if it was presented to me, hey, baby, I would love to take you, but I got my boss. This is going to be difficult. If I'm your man, you've told me what your boss is like. I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm going to handle it myself. But you got to take him. And if I'm your boss, I'm thinking, why can't he take himself? Why can't he take an Uber? Why is it that you have to be the one? Is he dying? Is he dying? Can he not move? Can he not function? You said that he almost had to go to the emergency room, but didn't. I wouldn't let that slide if I was a manager. That would annoy me. But one thing that was interesting is the age. 27 and 50s. So this is a Gen X person with a Gen Z person. This is some of the stuff that people are talking about with Gen Z. And I'm a huge fan of Gen Z. Like they are some go-getters. They're emotionally intelligent, but also sometimes in this situation, they don't take things seriously. Like it's a job. Your job isn't your life. Your job should never be your life, but your job is important. You signed up for this. You got to honor your commitment. You got to stand by your word. When you sign an employee agreement, you agree to certain stipulations that your job says that you need to do. I'm a firm believer in owning up to what you say that you're going to do. So you took this job and you knew that, and you knew it was going to be remote, and you get remote days. That hasn't been deprived. But unless it's been written in your employee handbook that you, or your employee agreement, that you get to pick and choose what days, those days are going to be directed by your boss or your employer. That's just what it is. You don't just have free willy-nilly to come wherever you want to go. So yes, I understand you don't like being micromanaged. And that is an issue with the manager, right? The manager, people out there, you have to learn to trust the people under you. You have to learn that you've given them the guidance that they need to get the job done. If they can't get the job done, it's for one or two reasons. Either they're not capable of getting the job done, or they weren't instructed and propped up and set up for success to get the job done. One is their fault, one is your fault. You need to find out which one it is and correct the issue. One of my friends recently is finding out how serious I am about business. People that listen to this podcast realize how serious I am about business because there was a discussion with me and my sister where I was like, yeah, you're really important to the show. A lot of people, you got a huge fan base. I'll let you go in a minute, right? Because this is my baby that we do together. She's an integral part in what we do here. it's still my name on the podcast. So I still have to represent when I'm presenting out material to you guys. So if my sister is dragging ass or isn't holding up her end of the bargain, we're going to have a conversation. If it continues, she got to go. And she was like, no, that sounds about right. Now, that's business. In my personal life, I give people 2, 3, too many chances. But in business, you have to be steadfast. And this is the way things got to get done on a fair basis. You got to be fair, but on a fair basis. And it, for me, it seems like one, the boss is kind of doing your job. So that's easy. And all you got to do is come in when she say to come in. I don't see what the big deal is. Are you being an idiot? Yeah. Yeah, you're being an idiot. It's time for you to grow up and handle responsibilities and realize that you signed up for a job and do that job, or don't and don't have a job. Those are your two options. But just because somebody micromanages you, and just because that they've had some people before you that haven't last, sometimes people can't stand that heat in the kitchen and don't fare well. Like that's just what it is, right? If your leader is setting an example that everybody must follow, and that example is high, and you can't meet that, then it ain't for you. And it sounds like your manager is good at her job, takes it a little bit too seriously. Sounds like her job is her life. A lot of Gen Xers and a lot of older millennials have that issue. I can't stress it enough. Your job is not your life. It's the thing that you do to be able to live your life. And if you love your job, that's even better. If you can't stand your job, try to get a new one if you can. But no matter what, your job ain't your life. Your job is something that you do so that you can live your life. Remember that. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for watching. And until next time, as always, I'll holla. Woo, that was a hell of a show. Thank you for rocking with us here on Unsolicited Perspectives with Bruce Anthony. Now, before you go, don't forget to follow, subscribe, like, comment, and share our podcast wherever you're listening or watching it to it. Pass it along to your friends. If you enjoy it, that means the people that you rock will enjoy it also. So share the wealth, share the knowledge, share the noise. And for all those people that say, well, I don't have a YouTube. If you have a Gmail account, you have a YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can actually watch our video podcast and YouTube exclusive content. But the real party is on our Patreon page, After Hours Uncensored and Talking Straight-ish. After Hours Uncensored is another show with my sister. And once again, the key word there is uncensored. Those are exclusively on our Patreon page. Jump onto our website at unsolicitedperspective.com for all things us. That's where you can get all of our audio, video, our blogs, and even buy our merch. And if you really feel generous and want to help us out, you can donate on our donations page. Donations go strictly to improving our software and hardware so we can keep giving you guys good content that you can clearly listen to and that you can clearly see. So any donation would be appreciative. Most importantly, I want to say thank you for listening and watching and supporting us. And I'll catch you next time. Audi 5000. Peace.